that brings us to the second point of discussion, which is actually projects for consideration under the SPLOST. There has been a lot of discussion that I have had, I should say, with other county commissions, commission chairmen throughout the state with regard to the renewal of the SPLOST and what generally they have seen. The information that I have gotten has by and large indicated that a SPLOST renewal that is specifically for transportation is not well received by the voters. And with that in mind, we set about to look at what was the best bang for the buck, if you will, for the voters of this county. And to that end, I have here what I consider a proposed project list from the county at large standpoint. And I will pass those out to people. I think some of you may have seen something similar to this, or this in fact. It lists effectively 4 projects that, from the county's perspective, are the projects that we believe that on a county-wide basis are the best bang for the voters' buck, so to speak.
Let me ask this question. Could this be a 6-year SPLOST as opposed to a 5-year extension?
Let me get there.
Okay, you're going to get there. That's fine.
I'm going to get there. To that end, there are 4 main projects that we envision, which are projects of county-wide significance. I'll start with the largest one first. And the largest one, many of you know that about 9 years ago, the county constructed a judicial complex and renovated the jail. In that was about a $60 million lease obligation. That lease is financed by bonds, and part of what we envision the largest single outlay of funds would be on a renewal SPLOST would be the acquisition of the Justice Center from the leasing company that holds the lease and the debt on that, and that's approximately $50 million. Secondly is an emergency operations center. Most of you know that from an emergency standpoint, our emergency operations center today is the second floor of this complex on the other end, which is directly above the tax office. From an emergency standpoint, having an emergency operations center to go through tornadoes and high winds and storms that is glass surrounded is not an ideal situation. One of the things that has been discussed over the years and has been included in our capital projects fund is an emergency operations center. Since we have a consolidated 911 center, the emergency operations center becomes an important aspect of ensuring that the safety of our citizens is paramount in our mind. Next would be a university campus. Most of you are aware that there have been efforts in this community for as long as I can remember, dating back at least 25 to 30 years, in an attempt to get some type of a higher education facility to locate in Fayette County. Fayette County has one of the highest educated bases of citizens in the state, if not the highest. One of the things that we have found through recruiting industry to the county is that a university campus is an ideal method of enticing people to locate here who have a higher educated workforce and the needs for an educated and training system. So one of the things that we have, again, tried to do is we have talked to several universities, which includes both university status as well as technical colleges about locating here. My earliest memory of trying to get an educational facility here was trying to get Griffin Tech here back in the early 1980s to open a branch to do the training for the many companies that were here. And in fact, they do a lot of the training, but we have never been able to entice them to put a center here because of the lack of funds to acquire the land and build a facility. One of the things that we envision in this renewal of SPLOST is funds set aside to acquire land and or buildings to entice a university center to be built here. And lastly, understanding that we still have transportation projects that need to be done. We have $15 million in transportation funds for countywide road projects. Most of you know that because of the economy, the funds that were collected or are to be collected in total through the existing SPLOST will fall short of what we hoped they would be. In fact, they will fall pretty much at what the minimum threshold we expected whenever the SPLOST was approved by the voters nearly 5 years ago. In that regard, we still have some of the countywide projects that we need to complete. So there's $15 million in countywide transportation projects added to that. Those are the ones that the county has proposed as being what we perceive to be countywide SPLOST eligible. And from that, then, the cities would have their own particular projects that they would fund, and the county, in its unincorporated status, would have funds to address only those concerns that are in the unincorporated area. At this point in time, what the county envisions is that the projects for the unincorporated area of the county in the existing SPLOST, which would be referred to as the 30% funds, would be dedicated to transportation improvements, but we do not yet have a detail of exactly how those funds would be expended. Most of you know that we are in the process of updating the transportation plan for the county. We expect to get a preliminary report from that within the next 30 to 40 days. And from that report, we would hope to develop the particulars of how those funds would be expended in transportation.